Hello and welcome, Exiles, to an in-depth look at the Beast Master angle for Spirit Walker. I wasn't really planning to make another video on this character because I didn't think we were going to get a lot of info, but they dropped a massive teaser yesterday, which basically made me realize, wait a minute, this build that I thought was probably going to be a meme, but I was going to do it anyways because it sounded fun, actually might be good. And I'm going to try to break down why I think that is, because there's a lot of things in here that point towards its potential scaling and its baseline being actually somewhat decent. Because I was just assuming I would tame a unique beast and it would just be bad out of the gate, but I'd be doing it and I'd be having fun anyways because, oh, look, it's cool. It's a big monkey. It's swinging the thing, not killing me, but killing my enemies. And in this teaser, I got a glimpse of the potential scaling this build could have, given the fact they showcased a character, which I would say is very poorly geared for multiple reasons, and yet it still did some halfway okay acceptable starting damage to kill some, like, T16 T15 level bosses. Let's get into it. So to start things off with, number one is reservation space was one of my main concerns. Is I was like, okay, how much are they going to make this monkey reserve? Because if you look at the reservation space on, like, the PoE2 wiki page, you'll notice the reservation for companions, their baseline reservation is very high. I initially was going to be like, okay, probably the monkey's going to be some massive number and I'll be able to squeeze in like a couple of dudes next to him. Probably. However, in this teaser, they showcase the monkey's reservation space actually being 47.4%, which that isn't like, you might be thinking, oh, that's because he has a lot of reservation efficiency. No, that's actually just straight up the baseline number. The way the game works with reservations is, and I'll showcase this a bit later in my breakdown, but essentially the number here is what its baseline number is before you add in reservation efficiency. And this character can get a lot of reservation efficiency. It has a bunch of idols with the ascendancy, and on top of that, on the tree, there are nodes like this one right here, easygoing, which gives a ton of reservation efficiency for companion skills. Now, they have mentioned in the Q&A they're going to be changing around the tree and adding more companion support. So some of these nodes might be swapped around, or there might be more stuff there. I'd imagine they're not going to be taking away any power, but only adding power to the tree for companions. So we'll see what that looks like. But my point is, I was fully expecting this, like the big unique companion. I was thinking it was going to be like 70% or something. 47.4 is similar to some of the baseline companions now, which maybe could mean they're also going to get a little bit nicer on the reservation amount for some of these baseline companions. We will see. That remains to be seen. Another thing I noticed that was very key is in this preview, they showcased two rare tamed beasts. They showcased the Quadrilla and they showcased a Plague Harvester. I don't know if you can see him right there. He's the bug guy. They had two rare tame beasts. And the fun thing about tame beasts is you can get monster modifiers on them, stuff from like this list here, which range in variable usefulness. Like, for example, cannot be stunned. Do you really care about making your rare monster not stunnable, or would you rather give them gain 40 damage, right? There's a pretty big difference in what rare mods you get on those as to how effective they will be. Specifically, I want to highlight the biggest one in my mind, which is a haste aura. If they have something like this where they're giving 25 speed to all of the allies around, making the pack more efficient on top of giving you movement speed, that's a big deal. Now, this haste aura I think is incorrect. Some of the data on this page I think is a bit out of date because I think haste aura I believe is like 10% MS. I don't think it's 25. But the point is, you can get quite a bit of power via having good mods on it. And in this showcase, you can see some of the mods they have on these beasts aren't particularly useful ones. Like this one right here, this red circle, this is a prevent recovery above 50%. And I can even showcase it in game here. I have right now my character's logged in next to a Plague Harvester, and you can see he has the prevent above 50%. You can see that red circle. You can also see like this bubble right now, or that's a temporal bubble, which would slow the action speed of enemies. So there's some very powerful things you can get. And I think in this showcase that they had here, they didn't showcase the ideal mods on rare monsters, which to me indicates they're sandbagging the showcase. And I'll go through a few other reasons why I think they're sandbagging in terms of like this isn't really a late game character, but it's doing some pretty decent damage given the investment it has. Another thing you'll notice is these monsters are all these companions are level 24. When they hover the breakdown, it's level 19 plus 5 levels. And those 5 levels come from 2 from the helmet, 2 from Amulet. I am assuming they didn't show the Amulet. And they have +1 from Minion Mastery. They're all linked with Minion Mastery. You can see right here, this gem here. And I'll go over the icons and what these support gems are as well. I pulled those up. I have it on a different character. But the point I'm making here is this character, number one, it's using level 19 gems, so they're missing gem level scaling that they could have, like Corruption +1 or a level 20 base gem. On top of that, this character is not level 90.
Including the mighty Silverfist.
When you scroll
and
up,
our trusty bear.
when you scroll to this part where they show the trusty bear, this is a skill granted by an ascendancy. How skills granted by ascendancy work and all these like default skills, if that level up with your character, if your character is level 90, that's when you unlock this last slot. So you know this character is below level 90. You know it's above, it's 84 or above, because that's when you can equip level 19 gems. So you know it's somewhere in that range, which means it's not really into the later stages of levels, and they're a bit more limited on their links. Another thing I want to point out here with the Wild Protector is he's using Rapid Assault and Coal Threshold. He's not using particularly ideal damage links. Like, for example, later or earlier on here, they were showcasing the links of the Silverfist and the 2 other rare companions. They go for damage links. They went for, I believe it's Minion Master, I think Feeding Frenzy, Muster, and Rage on hit. And I don't actually know what this one is. I tried to look for a red gem, but I think this might be a new support gem because I could not find it. It wasn't a lineage gem because they have 3 of them. All of them have it, and I just couldn't find a red gem matching this. So I think this is a new support that might apply to minions. Point is, all these are pretty solid damage links, whereas the bear did not have solid damage link. The bear had like support links. Faster attacks, so it could maybe apply the armor break faster, maybe was the idea. Coal threshold for a potential coal. I'm not sure if this is necessarily ideal, but the person who set up these links doesn't think the Wild Protector is a damage dealing minion. They seem to have putting it more like in the support category, if that makes sense, or that's what it seemed like to me looking at those links. Asmiri, Wolf, I forgot to check this one, but the other 3 are decent damage supports, I believe. And then Wolfpack as well, again, went for more damage links. So there are certain things that imply, I believe, the Wild Protector was more on the support angle. They didn't really think this was a good damage dealer, which maybe indicates it as a first lab might not be that great, but we'll see. That's some of the impression I was getting. Another thing I want to take note of right now is when they did this showcase of the beast dealing damage right around here, they did not mark the enemy during this showcase. Not that I could tell. Generally, when you do a mark, it puts a big symbol above the boss's head, which I didn't see at any point during this footage unless I'm blind. And they didn't cast anything. They didn't spend any mana. This is important in terms of are they sandbagging the showcase? Because the Scepter, the Sylvan's Scepter, it gives up to around 100% increased minion damage against marked targets or companion damage against marked targets, and they didn't use their mark. Pounce could make them take a bunch of increased damage based on all the nearby companions they have. They didn't use Pounce mark, and they didn't mark with Voltaic, which they have on their bar, from what I can tell on this showcase killing the enemy. There's a lot of stuff going on, so visually it's kind of hard to see, but I didn't see a mark. And so that's sandbagging some of their percent increased damage to all of their dudes. Another thing here you'll notice is these ice crystals on the ground. This just further points to the fact that their rares do not have good mods. This is a periodically unleash cold mod that does this, and it's not particularly strong as a rare mod you'd want on your tamed beast. Now, one thing I also want to know here is you'll notice where I am is in the Kari Crossing. If you go directly like this direction from the town, northwest. if you go directly like northwest of the town or whatever, kind of like at a straight line, you'll notice this checkpoint with the merchant trade window, and there's 2 rare plague harvesters that always spawn here. This is a really great spot, and obviously my invulnerable window ran out, where you can respawn at checkpoint, and it will re-roll the mods on these rares. You see this monster now has cast damage and minion. This one now has periodically unleash fire, heals allies, and and slow resistance. So you can see they have specific mods that apply to them every time you respawn. This is one way you can create yourself a good tamed beast. There's certain places like this that have guaranteed consistent rare spawns where you can check to see what their mods are and be like, okay, none of those are ones I want, and you can just respawn and kind of cycle through to look for some decent mods. ultimately, the best versions of these tamed beasts are going to be 4 mod rares you find while doing maps, which is going to be way more obnoxious to try to pay attention for a good tamed beast with 4 good mods. But who knows? Maybe they'll make these things tradable. Maybe there'll be a market around it. But most likely, it's going to be like, okay, you got to be really paying attention for when you see a juiced ideal 4 mod rare appear. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out as a way you can kind of fish for decent companions. Another thing I was going to showcase here that I got out was a lot of the support gems: Muster, Minion Master, Rage 3, Feeding Frenzy, just to showcase these support gems that they had in the footage here. It does match up with the ones they have right here, except for this one. I could not find what this one was, but Feeding Frenzy, Muster, Minion Master, and Rage, those are the support gems they're using for damage links, which are all pretty dang solid. Another thing I wanted to point out from this was earlier I said, hey, when you have something that gives Reservation a specific number, you can see this says it reserves 42%. If I go and I activate this Quadrilla, you'll notice it does not reserve 42, but that's because I have a chess piece that has reservation efficiency. The tooltip doesn't show that when you hover it here. Hence, the Quadrilla, the big unique Quadrilla monster, that is 47%. That is the number it is. As you see, I take this off, and all of a sudden, it's now reserving the 42 correctly, which obviously rounds up to a whole digit of 43. So just to showcase, the number here doesn't change regardless of whether or not you have the reservation efficiency. And that's how we know the Quadrilla, at least when they did this showcase, is only base 47 reservation, not some other number, and they got reservation efficiency to get down to 47%. Talking a little bit more about them sandbagging the preview, I think one of the biggest ways they did that is when they showcased the spear they're using
Finally, we're going all the way
for the build. Mark mentions it as a quote-unquote juicy spear, which I think is a little tongue-in-cheek. He was kind of joking.
The Cartha's balance and wielding a juicy spear.
Because the spear they're wielding is no quality, and it does have Merciless, but the base isn't particularly good, and without a flat roll, that's just not a lot of fizz. And I think this is a really big point at where their damage could get massively higher than what it is, because the node only cares about how much base damage you do with your Wayne hand. It doesn't really care what base weapon it is. And you'll notice here I have a trade search just showcasing Murray Urki. This is a pretty simple example of a weapon where, hey, you have a bunch of high base damage, but it has this huge bad attack speed multiplier, which is why very few people, like no one really uses this item. But in this case, where all we care about is the base damage, if you use something like Giant's Blood, which granted Giant's Blood would take you a lot of strength to balance out this 239. I'm just using this as an example. A rare can get higher fizz than this, but the point I'm trying to make is your character could get some really big flat fizz that they are not showcasing here because this character just does not have a very good weapon at all. So, points to take away from this are the character is kind of low level, maybe doesn't have the ideal links. They didn't level up their skills all the way as they could. Like, they're missing quite a bit of levels on the gem itself. And on top of all of that, they aren't necessarily maximizing the auras of their mods and their rare tame beasts. They aren't maximizing their playstyle. Like the showcase of damage they did right here, they didn't have a mark on it, which is a large amount of percent damage that they are missing because the scepter says, hey, I'll give you 100% increased damage if there's a mark on this enemy. Or if they did a pounce mark specifically, pounce mark makes the enemies take increased damage based on every different like nearby enemy or whatever, which would be a lot of increased damage given the fact of how many companions we have. So all in all, this showcase, I was expecting fully, I had the full belief, hey, I'm gonna league start the tame a unique monkey guy. I'm gonna tame the monkey. He's gonna be cool. He's probably not gonna do that much damage, and I'll have to re-roll to something better later on, and that is what it is. After seeing this preview, I'm fairly convinced we can actually make the tame beast do some solid damage, considering the damage they showcased here is halfway okay, and there are a number of things that make this showcase they have here way more sandbag than what it could be in terms of damage, if that makes sense. Anyways, dude, I am freaking pumped actually now about playing the Tame Beast Ascend, because I think there's gonna be some legitimate scaling behind it. I think that was my biggest concern, is that it wasn't going to be able to get like very good damage at all, but it seems like it's probably going to be able to get some good damage. And my final concern will probably be no phasing and getting stuck running into all the companions. But you know what? We'll cross that bridge when we cross that bridge. I'm freaking pumped about point 5, dude. This 2 weeks needs to go faster. All right. Anyways, thanks for watching, Exiles. Take care and peace out. Have a good one.